Dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. In today's edition, we are going to talk about the peace and stability in the African continent. And we'll start with this report where President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stressed that Egypt is continuing to do its best to support the lasting peace and stability in Africa. The president's statement came as part of a recorded speech to mark the African Union Week, held under the theme towards repositioning post-conflict reconstruction and development in Africa. More details in the following story.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stressed that Egypt continues to do its best to support lasting peace and stability in Africa. The president's statements came as part of a recorded speech to mark the African Union Week, held under the theme towards repositioning post-conflict reconstruction and development in Africa. He urged all international partners to keep exerting efforts to help create a better future for Africa. El-Sisi said that the second edition of the AU's week sheds light on the attention devoted by all parties to the issues of development and reconstruction in Africa. The week's activities coincide with several challenges and crises taking place at both regional and international levels. The president underlined the need to strengthen joint efforts on supporting national institutions, the principles of good governance, and means to guarantee lasting peace and resolving and avoiding conflicts in the region. Egypt's hosting of the activities of the African Union Center for Post-Conflict Reconstruction and Development is one proof that Egypt considers supporting stability in Africa as one of its main pillars, and said that to support peace and stability in Africa, Egypt is collaborating with presidents and heads of government of African countries on realizing the goals of the Agenda 2063, which aims to achieve inclusive and sustainable socio-economic development over a 50-year period in Africa.
And to shed more light on the issue, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Souaid Chalabi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Ambassador Chalabi, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stressed that Egypt continues to do its best to support the lasting peace and stability in the African continent. What's your take on that, Ambassador Chalabi?
As you know, Egypt supports all the endeavors for peace in the African countries, and especially with the relationship to our ties, with very close ties with almost all African countries. We have an embassy in every single country in Africa, and that is why we are very close from the point of view of politics and economic and even cultural. So when we are talking about the boosting of the relationship between Egypt, that means that in all the different sectors in the society, we are very close to our sisters and brothers in Africa.
Indeed. Ambassador Chalabi, also President el-Sisi underlined the need to strengthen the joint effort on supporting the national institutions, the principles of good governance, and means actually and guarantees of lasting peace and resolving and avoiding the conflicts in the region. How do you read these very important issues that we have to tackle in the African continent in particular?
Well, you know that in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs there is the Center for Conflict Resolution and
yes.
Peace Building in Africa, and this is Triple CPA, and this center deals with conflict resolution in Africa. That means that whenever there is a conflict, there are always means and ways of mediating in order to reach solutions to these conflicts. And there are a lot of courses that have been, training courses for Africans that have been offered in the Ministry of Defense, in the Ministry of Interior, specialized for African candidates who wish to to train in order to get to the point where they can mediate conflict, reach resolutions to conflict, and also to mediate in order to be able to stop any wars or any civil unrest in Africa. So Egypt plays a big role from these centers that are specialized in offering our African candidates these courses that are meant for training.
Yes. Ambassador Chalabi, also the President said that Egypt hosting of the activities of the African Union Center for the Post-Conflict Reconstruction and Development is one proof that Egypt is considered the main support of the stability in Africa as one of its main priorities. How do you see this statement by President Sisi?
Yes, this is a very, very important center that has been recently approved by the African Union. We had applied for hosting this center since 10 years ago, and successfully we were our very successful policy in Africa have reached the point where they have approved the center to be hosted in Cairo.
Yes.
And this is very important for post-conflict because peace building is as important as reaching peace after negotiations and after mediation. Because usually the country is devastated, the country is destroyed, the people need to be able to live back after conflicts and to live a normal life. So it's always important to have a post-conflict center where the infrastructure is rebuilt, where the people themselves, they are able to negotiate with each other. There are many problems between the two factions who are in conflict. So it is important to have peaceful talks between the two rivalries in the conflict. And usually the post-conflict is this center will be hosted here, but it serves all African countries.
Of course.
And it will use all the experience that Egypt has from all the centers of training that they have in the ministries, in the different ministries.
Yes.
Even the Ministry of Information, they have special courses for Africans in order to direct the media towards peaceful towards solution of peace, of the solution of conflicts in a peaceful manner.
Yes. Ambassador Chalabi, also to what extent does Egypt provide the necessary support to the African brotherly countries?
As you know, there has been the Egyptian Fund for Technical Cooperation with Africa that has been constructed by the late Minister Boutros Ghali, who we are celebrating today the 100th anniversary of his birth. He has initiated this fund that helps with all the African countries. It's in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it is a special fund for technical cooperation, and they send experts, Egyptian experts, to all African countries upon their request. So it has succeeded. Maybe every year there has been 400 to 500 experts sent to Africa from Egypt to help those
Yes.
those countries who are in need of our experience and
Yes.
our experts. And now it has been changed into another way of partnership also.
Yes.
So it is still offering technical cooperation, and it is offering to all African countries and to also Commonwealth countries,
Yes.
the Islamic countries. They are offering also same courses and also sending experts. So the fund is still there, and it is very successful in its work.
Yes, indeed. Also, Ambassador Chalabi, Egypt is aiming to develop rapid plans to increase the intra-regional trade and benefit from Africa's resources to reach sustainable development for all countries in the continent. How do you see this?
Well, this is a very important win-win solution from the point of view of Egypt exporting its goods. All the manufacturers that Egypt is producing, they can. It has a big market in Africa, and also receiving from African countries their products. So it is. There has been a treaty that had been signed and ratified by all African countries for free trade between all African countries, and this is has started, but unfortunately it was during COVID, but now it is being accelerated in order to provide all the necessary measures of financial guarantees for all those investments that can be made from Africa to Africa. And this is really, and Egypt, of course, is a signatory of this treaty. So it's going to be tax exemption between all the, and the boundaries will be off between countries in Africa, so that they can make transport easy of goods and also of services. So there will be lots of jobs available for youth, and it will be, like I said in the beginning, it's a win-win for all African countries, including Egypt, of course.
Also, Egypt aims to develop the opening of more Egyptian banks in the African nations, contributing to increasing the trade between Egypt and the other African nations. How do you see the importance of such a move, Ambassador Chalabi?
Yes, you have seen, of course, during the COP27, how much Egypt is supporting the African continent and the African countries who need to change into green economy. So the banks are ready now to give Egypt and African countries and to open ways and means of cooperation in this field, in the environment field. So I think Egypt is going to gain, and also African countries are going to gain from all those investments that will be made in order to reach free of climate, a good climate in Africa, and free from any environment problems, like using all the new technologies in the energy.
Yes, indeed.
So the banks will offer investments, guaranteed investments, for the projects that are going to provide a clean environment and green economy for African countries.
Indeed, Ambassador Souaid Chalabi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, always a pleasure to have you with us and to listen to your precious input. And moving on to this report where Minister of Environment Yasmin Fouad called on the world to support an initiative to recycle at least half of Africa's solid waste by the year 2050 as a way to fight the global pollution.
Minister of Environment Yasmin Fouad called on the world to support an initiative to recycle at least half of Africa's solid waste by 2050 as a way to fight global pollution. The minister said that 19 of the 50 largest landfills on the planet are in sub-Saharan Africa, a situation that affects ecosystems. The aim of the Egyptian proposal is to reduce the generation of greenhouse gases as a result of such waste and the impact of waste pollution on human health, biodiversity and food systems. Fouad highlighted that by 2050 the continent will have an estimated population of 2,500 billion people, more than double as today. Therefore, by that time the total generation of waste in the region will go, according to studies, from 1.6 billion tons to 4 billion. Various statistics reveal that short-lived climate pollutants, such as the methane emanating from the decomposition of organic waste, contribute about 20% of global emissions. The minister expressed that the financing and implementation of the project faces many constraints in Africa.
And Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry announced the launch of the Cairo Center for Learning and Excellence on Adaptation and Resilience to accelerate the climate adaptation across the African continent. More details.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry announced the launch of the Cairo Center for Learning and Excellence on Adaptation and Resilience to accelerate climate adaptation across Africa. Addressing the Advancing Adaptation Action in Africa session of COP27, Shoukry said that the new center aims at building skills, exchanging expertise and conducting academic research to deal with the problems of climate adaptation. The launch of the satellite aims to monitor climate changes in Africa, such as the phenomena of the desertification, the increase in carbon emissions, water vapor and wind speed, and this is very important and useful for Cairo and all countries of the African continent to support them in facing the negative effects of the climate change. Several workshops and educational seminars were held in partnership with a number of specialized experts to activate the Syndicate Space Committee, which was established in August. The seminar also aimed to emphasize the role of educational and research institutions in space science and tackle the close relationship between the space and climate. Shoukry said that we are happy that we were able to cooperate with the United States throughout last year to prepare a support package to assist Africa to implement the climate adaptation program.
Well, with that, our dear viewers, we come to the end of this edition of our program Africa Today, where we have been talking about the importance of the peace and security and stability in the African continent, as well as the importance of the sustainable development. I'm Maïsi Rabia, signing off. Many thanks for watching.